The Lakers. You got Dennis, which that was one thing they needed last year. They needed a guy in the last 5 minutes can get their own basket, and someone who can create their own, which was the Lakers' problem for the most part, that you have LeBron and AD, and then from there, everyone relied on them, to get them open. So then you had a bunch of ball watchers, people just sitting in the corners, atmosphere, Now you have someone who can actually go get his own shot, which takes eyes off of everyone else, because if this guy can go rogue and get into that lane and score at will, now you have to reshift your whole defense, which helps out everyone else now. So I think that was a very good move by them. Stealing Trez was, like, I remember I heard someone say, well, Trez played bad, in small ball and this and this. Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was bad for your small ball because it was him at center, and then you have your shooting guard playing power forward and your other shooting guard playing power forward or small forward, and then you have your small point guard playing two guard, and then your combo guard playing point. Yeah, you guys are fucking small. That's, but Lakers small is a whole different small, because you have Trez as the 5 with Anthony Davis, 6'11", at the power forward, and LeBron, 6'10" and a half with his shoes on an NBA court at the small forward. That is a very big small ball lineup. So that was a very powerful move by them. And then you lose Dwight, which you lose athleticism, speed,
size,
that bang power that you really need to keep people out of the lane. You lose that, but then you gain Marc Gasol, smart, scorer, does play defense, just not athletic, but he knows how to occupy that paint. So it's like having an older Jokic. So I can't say which is better, but it's one of those where you didn't downgrade, because you lose athleticism, you gain a half court, player who can make great decisions.
And what you said, especially as a champion, first of all, they definitely stole. 6th man of the year at that contract was a great deal for them. And what they did stylistically, getting rid of Dwight, saying that we're going to have a big, but he's a small big, but recognize what they have with AD, they're unleashing that, and then they can backfill that with Gasol, who, he's a little older, like you said, but he is that coach on the floor too, and crafty still.
Yeah. What's so funny is I don't think they planned on losing Dwight. I think Dwight just signed because Trez is coming as a 4 or 5. He's coming in as a 4 or 5 as a backup. So when Dwight left, they had to actually go get a center, and that's where Mark came in at. So they could have had Trez and Dwight.
That would have been
So that's what I said. It's one of those where you don't really. It's two different type of players, and they're both good at what they did.
Who else you got?
I go Philly. Getting Dwight helps them down low with helping Embiid down the stretch, keeping people out of basket. Then you have Danny
Green.
Did Danny Green go there?
Yep.
And then you got Seth. So that opens up, the floor for Ben Simmons to get into the lane. And it keeps the floor space, keeps everyone honest. If I'm Philly, I'm going to be pushing Ben to at least try to average 30 this year. And I need him to go into that mindset of averaging 30, because if he's trying to average 30, that means he's aggressive. When he's aggressive, his playmaking is a lot better. And then it takes a lot of pressure off Embiid to be great every game. Because Embiid being great every game, his great versus what the team needs is, the spectrum is too different. And I don't think Embiid understands that. Like, the playoff game where they got swept, he looked great for his stats, but he didn't realize you don't have anybody else that's capable of doing what you do. So you're averaging 32 in this. No. You should have been averaging 38, 40 in this. That's the load you needed to use to pull out that win. So I think with Ben, I think Ben can dominate offensively without affecting Embiid, because Embiid is just, he's that 28 to 30 guy, no matter who's on the court.
Okay, the other thing I want to know is what when you say make Ben more aggressive, what you're putting around him with these shooters with Seth, with Danny Green, Tobias Harris.
Yeah, so if you close the lane up, you have those guys that's going to spot up and shoot. So the fact that with those guys on the floor, everything is wide open. So now you can use your athletic 6'11" frame to just Greek to freak it. And then, with your vision and your IQ, everyone else gets those easy open shots. The more they shoot, the easier it is to get to the basket.
Because that's the thing, people aren't figuring out with Ben. Everyone's attacking his jump shot, that it's not where it should be, right? But what he is a playmaker.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem with him. I think he's being caught up in playmaking and trying to make plays. Well, these guys that can't score won't get open if you're not aggressive. Like, why would I leave my guy if you're not? He's no one. But if you're not going to attack this basket, why am I going to get off a shooter to go guard you if you're not being aggressive? Now, if you're driving the lane, dunking, I got to now help. Now he gets that open shot. Cal Korver gets open shots because LeBron is trying to dunk on everybody. So now we got to all run in there, and here you go. God damn it. That's how that works. I'm just not going to leave these shooters if you're not going to be aggressive.
You mentioned Giannis, Milwaukee. Definitely made some moves where they are in contention.
They finally became, with just Jrue Holiday, just with him, they became a better playoff team. Because what people didn't see with them is they were great for regular season. Because regular season, there's no real scouting. You don't have a booklet on, what everyone does. You're just playing your games, I play you Monday, I play you Wednesday, play Thursday. That's how the season goes. You're not really dialing in on someone's game plan. So you have a power forward who's at the point guard position because he's catching it at the half court, the three-point line, and going to work, which means you take the responsibilities of the point guard out of the point guard's hand. But the point guard wasn't a shooting point guard. He was a driving point guard. So now you're a driving point guard, your point guard is a driving point guard. Bledsoe. So it's a clash. There's no open floor. So when the playoffs come and Miami decides to wall you up, you don't have the point guard actual skill set, but you have the ball in your hand like one. So, and the fact that he's not a Seth, he's not a Lou Williams. He's not one of those combo guards that can just flat out shoot the ball. It hurts you in the playoffs. Now that you got Jrue Holiday, you free all that up. Now you have a guy who can create his offense in the half court, which will free up Giannis a little bit. But, at the end of the day, if you're in the playoffs and he doesn't have a low post move to create doubles, he's still going to have a hard time. The driving from the three-point line to the basket, being a big man, it's not going to work in the playoffs.
All right, we talked about the teams that got better. Then there's the guys that, hey, they benefit from a change of scenery, which is a common thing. So who are the moves that you saw are going to actually help them individually?
Just team. Okay, so Jrue Holiday becomes what he was with AD. He becomes that real go-to guy in the playoffs. Westbrook and Beal, I think, is gonna be a great combo.
How so? Because I think everyone's curious because the label on Russ is that he's tough to play with. look at his numbers. I don't know. How
I mean,
to
it's
say
tough
that.
to play with because he demands you to play hard all the time. You know, that's what Bill does. But now you have two assassin-like minds. And like people don't realize you had James Harden, who was averaging 36 last year before we got shut down. And Russell was averaging 27 and 10. I just don't, you got to really put in like, okay, this guy is averaging 36. They don't get along because they're not sharing the ball. There's not enough balls to go around. But the other one is averaging 27 and 10. Mm-hmm. That's how fast Westbrook plays. He plays so fast that so many more opportunities is going where it doesn't affect the second or third option. So him and Bill can both possibly average 30 points this season because that's how many possessions are going to be in this game. Same with with Curry, KD, Clay, and Draymond. There's so many possessions in the game that people didn't realize that Clay averaged 22 as the third option.
As the third option, right?
And that's the difference between different players. I think Wall is going to be great because he gets to be with Cousins, and even with Harden, if Harden's there, he's the point guard for the other four players or the other three players. He gets to, so that the PJ Tuckers is going to look great, and the Gerald Green, like those guys are going to get those open shots.
I feel like John is that blend of what they had with Chris Paul and then with Westbrook. Really,
yeah,
because what he gives you in the half.
Yeah, he's a faster Chris Paul, but he has the IQ of making those those decisions with Westbrook's style of driving. So you get a blend of both, but but we don't know what's going to happen with Harden. If Harden leaves, then John Wall's the man.
So I think actually, I don't know. I wouldn't say he needs to be a comeback player of the year. Obviously, he's coming back, so I mean, there's that. I can't wait to see what he does because I think he will.
If Harden's not there, you can basically give him comeback player of the year. I mean, because now you have a team who was built as role players to a star. But those role players are shooters. That's all John Wall needs. So I'm pretty sure someone like PJ Tucker will thrive because you get open shots now, but your shots is because now you have someone who actually will be looking for you. So so players like that their value will increase.
Anybody else?
I'll go with Tatum. I think Tatum is going to explode this year because now Kemba's out for a month. So now the scoring load is on him and Brown. So I think...
and Hayward's gone.
And I didn't know Hayward was part of Boston until you just said it. But, I don't remember him really. I don't remember much of last year.
He had a couple of years there.
Yeah. So when you make a shooting guard, 3-guard, a power forward, I mean, you really fuck his game up. But that's another story. But Tatum, I think he's going to have a wonderful year. Especially being that he considered himself, that he was disappointed. In the playoffs losing to Miami, he put some really serious work in. And I think it's timing for him too, where he's at in his age and career and skill set and the move that they make. Having Kemba there, if he's out for a little while, that'll just make him realize all the things that he can do as they happen. And then the personnel moves, like the addition by subtraction, because Jalen is phenomenal too. So when you have him, but you say that, Jason, you're focal. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to say he's focal. He knows he's focal because, you got a 18, 20-point score gone. So someone has to, take on that slack. And then I think, it's like, you can't even be surprised with it. But, he gets overlooked a lot and don't realize how great he is as Chris Paul. And it's crazy because if you go down Chris Paul's history, he hasn't really actually had good teams. His New Orleans teams, they were mediocre at best.
He was making.
He was bringing in scraps and making dinner.
Well, I think when he was young and that was like he was just a brilliant player. I mean, then he was supposed to go to the Lakers, wink, wink. But what they could have done with the Clippers, they gave it a long runway. What you're saying is they just never really gave him the right pieces.
No, not the pieces that he would need. Like even with OKC, you see what he did with OKC? Nobody knew they were going to make the playoffs, but that's what he's skilled at, taking these mediocre teams and making them great. What if you gave him his Steve Nash type of teams, where you gave him the perfect players for his skill set? It'd be a whole different team. At first I said I didn't think Suns was going to be shit. I did. We was talking, I was like, Suns. But the fact that he has a big man, you have a star.
Elite scorer.
And with the way he controls tempo, so that means you're not gonna have many turnovers. You're gonna have great possessions every time down court. That means you're gonna always be in games. And he's a big shot hitter. I would say they're gonna make the playoffs this year.
I would say so. I think, especially for Booker, I think that's what he needed.
Booker needs the playoffs because when Booker gets in the playoffs, Booker's going to show his ass. You know, he's a playoff player.
But also having that support from Chris.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to say this. We spent probably more time than anybody embracing the future, looking at what's coming up next with the next wave. So this is what we should dig in on. Who's coming next? Who's ready to break out? So the guys that have caught your eye, the guys that you're rubbing your hands together to see what they can do.
I would go with Michael Porter Jr.
Okay. Which he did. The bubble was a great showcase for him.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going off of. You know, you're looking at, you know, because he wasn't playing before he got to the bubble. You know, he didn't really play much that last year. And then he gets to the bubble, and you can see the confidence, the swagger kicking in, even with the confidence of, you know, after his comments, eating the cookie like, yeah, I said it, and what? You know, just to